Hey everyone. Okay, so before getting into the meat of the chapter, I gotta say that Hermit sending out a distress call on beekeepers to help lure out the chronophage, in my mind, has the exact same energy as YouTubers are gonna save the world kind of energy, which, well, again, while leading to a lot of nice reunions with Billy and even seeing our boy Nino again, it's also just absolutely it's an idea that is absolutely laugh out loud ridiculous. Like again, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, YouTubers save the world kind of thing. Again, it just when you say it out loud like that, it sounds absolutely ridiculous. But with that said, although I gotta wonder if Mashma is at all a fan of Full Metal Alchemist, because when you look at the panels of all the beekeepers, the one in the middle right, like in the middle far right, bears a striking resemblance to Winry, just kind of with a hat instead of a bandana. So it's like, yeah, I wonder if, because I wonder if he is a fan because just the design in itself, it's the resemblance to Winry was a little bit hard to ignore than just it being a coincidence. And again, just seeing our boy Nino again, it was just kind of fun. But okay, let's get to the real meat of this chapter, which is that we finally get an official introduction to Frejya as she and Cure basically raid the Eden Zero. And I'll be honest, Freyja's design wasn't what I was expecting, which is to say, just based off her name and the silhouette of her, I was expecting something a little more machine combined with Valkyrie warrior aesthetic, which, just to be clear, I still do like this design, but it's one of those weird things of my expectations versus the reality of the design, and maybe Mashma did have that idea initially, but couldn't find a way to properly translate it on the page. But like I said, I still do like the design, but it's like it kind of took me off guard. Like, oh, that's what Freyja looks like. Not what I was expecting, but still awesome. And in any case, with Freyja now here, we get the obvious matchup of Homura darting off to take Freyja on, and I'll be honest, by throwing Cure into the mix in the way Mashma did with this chapter, it left me questioning even more how this fight with Freyja will even play out, because right now there's two scenarios I'm seeing the most here, which is A, Homura flat out defeats Freyja as a sort of narrative means of showing she has surpassed Valkyrie. And although I wouldn't mind that idea, I do recognize the risk of it, that Mashma kind of runs afoul of tripping up on execution and unintentionally making Freyja look weaker, probably a little bit weaker than she probably should look. And then, then there's option B, which is the idea that Mashma chooses to focus on the fight of Jin and Clean versus Cure first, where they defeat him and free everyone, and which allows Valkyrie the dash off to support Homura. That would be the scenario of how to handle Freyja that I would be more open to, which, yeah, let's talk about the Cure matchup, because honestly, putting Cure up against the Wind siblings was not a matchup I was expecting, but simultaneously I am very intrigued by this matchup, and honestly I am happy that that at least to some extent the Wind siblings are getting some what do we call like MC like main character spotlight. Like they are fighting essentially one of the main villains, and I do kind of like that. I like seeing that that at this point those two siblings are main characters enough to where Mashma says, yeah, I'm gonna put them against the major villain, and I'm curious, again, it's one of those things where I'm curious how exactly this is going to play out, because I can see the potential of how this could work out and how they could potentially defeat here. It's just how it's ultimately going to play out. It's going to be one of the more intriguing fights to track, honestly, to track right now. It's one of those you don't see coming, but again, you're intrigued by what potential there is with it. Now, if I was to critique this chapter for anything, it would honestly be that this chapter feels like Mashma cut it off a little prematurely. Don't get me wrong, as a whole, the chapter is fine, but by the time I was done reading this chapter, it felt like he could have done a few extra pages setting things up with whether it be with the fight with Freyja, rather than just ending it with Homer rushing towards her, or better yet, it would have been an even better cliffhanger to tease out the location of the chronophage and where it is like currently, like something to really just hook us for the next chapter. But as is, like the chapter itself is fine. It's lacking that sort of hook to kind of really get us like excited for the next chapter. Like that's the thing that Majima seems to be struggling with nowadays. Is he doesn't seem to be able to come up with that final page hook as much as he used to. And maybe part of that is because we are basically in the final, and there's not really any good places he can find to really end these chapters anymore. I don't know, but it's like it feels like it feels like he hasn't been able to really just like nail that final page hook of a chapter anymore as much as he used to. And just in general, the chapter felt like a lot shorter than some of his other chapters. Also, I guess I should talk about the elephant in the room as well, which is with Freyja now here. The question now looms more than ever of whether or not Homer or Valkyrie are probably going to die. And honestly, with the way Majima has set this up, I am leaning more towards it being Valkyrie now, especially with how it feels like Majima is already playing this fight up as it being the final test to show that Homer has surpassed Valkyrie. Like no matter how things play out from here, that is basically the main vibe I'm getting, that this is like Homer's final test. And because of that, like, it is one of those things that is pointing me more towards the idea of, yeah, Valkyrie is probably gonna die. Which if she does end up dying, honestly, then I would be kind of perfectly okay with that now, because the big thing I think that Majima did give us with this arc overall is I think he gave us a lot more closure with Valkyrie's character, just a lot more moments for us to really get to know her and just really give Homer just kind of the experience of seeing her teacher, her mentor, her mother figure again. So I now that we've gotten those moments, he can more easily rip Valkyrie away from us. Like it's just kind of feeling in my gut that, yeah, if anyone's gonna die by Freyja's hand out of these two, it is gonna be Valkyrie, honestly. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Night signing off. Later, everyone.